Peep Laja, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, y'all, Ezra here with you, and I've got a special guest today, Peep Laja. And Peep is sort of the leading conversion rate optimization expert in our industry with his blog, ConversionXL.com. And I am a big fan of Peep because what made me famous in this industry, many of you who follow me today don't know this, what made me famous was my conversion rate optimization strategies and tactics. That was what my first course was on, and that's kind of what brought me my initial exposure in this industry. And I've since sort of moved on to focusing more on direct response marketing and paid amplification. But I always love nerding out on data and testing and tweaking, and I always love meeting folks who do that for a living. And I got the opportunity to meet Peep down at Andrew Youderian's e-commerce fuel event, and we kind of got on well. It was cool to get to meet you. And now I'm actually going to be speaking at Peep's event in Austin, Texas, I believe on March 28th and 29th. Are those the correct dates?
28th to 30.
Yeah, March 28th to 30th in Austin, Texas. It's, if you're interested in testing and optimizing your business and making more from your e-commerce store with the same amount of traffic, it's a must-attend event. And this presentation is to just kind of get to know Peep a little bit, hear his story, get some tactics and strategies from him, and then also talk a little bit about the event. I apologize for my lack of video. I'm working from the road, #digital nomad, which is the lingo term in our industry that, by the way, I'm not a huge fan of that lingo term, but the reason I don't have a video is because my laptop's kind of funky right now. But anyways, Peep, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, man. So tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, where you came from, how you fell into CRO, what you're up to, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Many moons ago, maybe 10 years ago or so, I was actually working in sales. I was a nonprofit fundraiser. And then I had the itch to travel the world and to do some digital nomading. So I found this gig through an early internet television company that was on sales through Skype and stuff, and I could live anywhere. So just, hey, why not go to Panama? So I did. But that company lost all its funding and ran out of money, and so I found myself in Panama with no money.
Oh, no.
And back then, I didn't speak any Spanish, so I couldn't find a job. My skills back then were like SEO, AdWords, things like that. And I offered, I tried to land the job, and they said, well, we don't need anybody, but we need SEO, but not anybody full time. And so I put two and two together and started my SEO PPC agency in Panama. This was in 2007.
Wow. And there wasn't a lot of direct sort of, there weren't a lot of marketing services agencies in South America at that time.
Oh, yeah, man. I was cold emailing people. I cold emailed like the CEO of a local airline and like landed like these big companies as clients just by just emailing them out of the blue. And then, things were good. And that's when I first learned that even when I got companies ranking like first page on Google, which wasn't that hard back then, they weren't necessarily making more money. So that's when I first discovered that there's this thing called conversion optimization. Started running my first A/B test and so on. And then, much like yourself, I got into direct response marketing, affiliate marketing. I was, doing more digital nomading and backpacking in South America. And then I had a SaaS startup that failed and so on. But in 2011, I finally decided that I can't be everything and do all kinds of marketing. I need to pick. So I just picked, quite randomly, to be honest, that I'm going to be a conversion guy.
And by the way, that was a good choice because there's not a lot of them. And I also am a really fan of the deep rather than wide strategy. Go deep on one thing, get really good at it.
Yeah.
Instead of being
as an agency, like now I have an agency. I've had it for 7 years now, CRO agency. Because when you do just one thing, two things happen. A, the perception of your expertise goes up because, you only claim to do one thing, and your actual expertise goes up because you just do one thing. And so 7 years ago, I started this conversion optimization agency, which is still around and growing, a blog, ConversionXL, which took off very, very quickly. And now a year and a half ago, I also launched CXL Institute, which is online courses about conversion optimization, digital analytics, data-driven marketing.
Yeah, I think my good friend Drew Sanaki did a course with you, right?
Yes, exactly. E-commerce growth course. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have some real, I mean, beyond yourself, legit experts like teaching under your brand.
Exactly. So that's what we do. We seek out who is like the best at what they do and say, try to somehow convince them to do a course for us.
Awesome. Cool. So you're kind of like, in it. And what's the other thing about people who have education businesses? Like, I don't love folks who have education businesses who aren't actually doing it. And you're obviously actually doing it. So that's super cool. So to that end, I think that there's sort of mystery around how to do A/B testing or multivariate testing, conversion rate optimization for e-commerce business owners.
Mm-hmm.
People find it hard. They don't know what technology stack to use. And sort of we've been working on this with our Zipify Pages application for Shopify store owners. We built in some testing functionality in there. But when you're looking at a new brand, let's say it's a brand that's doing, $100,000 a year up to $4 million a year, right? So 6-figure to low 7-figure brand. When you're starting out, if you've never run tests before, where do you start? How do you approach that? Do you look at a certain set of data ahead of time? Do you always start with a shopping cart? Do you always start with speed optimization, mobile optimization? Kind of what's your sort of playbook there?
Yeah. As I see it, conversion optimization in general consists of two things. 80% of conversion optimization is actually research, gathering data, analyzing data, and 20% is testing. Because like the 80% of the work is figuring out what is the problem with my site? Why aren't I selling more? And going in like nitty-gritty details, like what's the problem with my product page? What's the problem? What are the problems with my cart pages or my positioning or my, whatever it is? Because only if you understand what the problem is, you can hypothesize what might be good solutions to these problems. And even if you know what the problem is, you don't know what the best solution is. That's why you need to test. So when I'm working on a brand new site that I've never seen before, always start with conversion research, which means I look at digital analytics to see where people are dropping off, whether it's,
So this is sort of an advocation for having, for example, goals set up where you can see what pages people are dropping off on, right? Like
for sure.
How many people, make it from the product page to the shopping cart, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And not just goal, but even like getting more nitty gritty where every single click, every single interaction has to be recorded. Like if you use Google Analytics, you should use events like, for instance, in category pages. If the change the sort order from, best selling to cheapest first, you need to record it. Or if they use certain filters on your category pages by size or price or whatever. Because what you want to understand, you want to look for correlations. Which behaviors correlate with higher sales? So if people who sort pages by, let's say, sort products from least expensive to most expensive, maybe those people who do that convert more, maybe even spend more money. So then it's like, what if we would change our sort order to default to, cheapest prices first? Things like that. So Google Analytics, always number one thing to go. But Google Analytics only tells you what is happening, how much, and where. It doesn't tell you why. So in addition to analytics, you need the qualitative side. So you need to talk to your buyers, survey them after they complete the purchase to figure out like what kind of problems they had, hesitations, doubts, while they still freshly remember their purchasing experience, things like that.
So are you sending out post-purchase surveys within the first couple days after a purchase?
Either, or even sooner. You might also, a couple of hours later when it's still fresh in their mind. I do recommend incentivizing to get a higher response rate, like throw in a coupon, a free gift, whatever you can afford. And you want in like 200, 250 responses, and you want to only ask open-ended questions, like specifically like, what was the one thing that nearly stopped you from purchasing? What kind of doubts and hesitations did you have? What kind of questions did you have about our products that you couldn't find answers to? Things like this. Also, you want to understand their like intent, like what problem were they solving for themselves? I mean, depending what you sell, it might be also obvious. And then you also want to put polls on your pages. Like I had this case where this is a cart page, and only 30% of people proceeded to the checkout page. And typical, and on an average e-commerce site is like 50%, so a massive drop off. And just by looking at the page, we could not figure out what was wrong with it. So we put like an on-site poll, or actually a survey. So basically, we asked on that very page, what is holding you back from completing this purchase?
Like as a popover or something?
Yeah, we triggered it after there had been like 15 or 20 seconds of like inactivity on the page. So it popped out on the lower right corner. I think we used Hotjar in that case. And then we waited, depending on your traffic. You get like a 2 to 4% response rate on average. So depending on your traffic, you might have to wait a couple of weeks to a month to get enough responses in, like 200, 250. And then what they told us was shipping costs. And this company was selling cooking stuff like pots, pans, forks, things like that. And it was actually, the shipping costs were ridiculous. Like buying a $2 fork and knife pair, shipping was like $20. And just by looking at this page, you just don't put 2 and 2 together. And then, we told the client that this is your biggest business problem. Of course, we can't A/B test a solution to it. You just need to fix this business problem. Like,
stop charging for shipping, or don't show the shipping price on the cart page.
Yeah, like I guess they had very high shipping costs, so they needed to figure out a different way to ship products, and they did. So everybody was happy. But so sometimes you can test ideas for solutions. Sometimes you can't. If you have forms on your page, and most e-commerce sites have forms, like billing and shipping forms, like which specific form fields are causing problems, which specific form fields are causing hesitation, like people don't know what to enter, or they enter something that causes an error message, like you did it incorrectly or something.
Sure. Quick win for e-commerce stores is Shopify recently added the Google autofill.
Yes,
that's been helping.
Yeah, and everybody could add that, because that's a free API that Google provides to everybody.
Totally.
Everybody should do that. Yeah, but like if you have forms of any kind, you need form analytics, separate set of tools. You could, of course, set up tracking with Google Tag Manager as well. But
so let's say, for example, you don't have. This is going to be a hard question. You don't have the capital to invest in a CRO agency, and you don't probably fully have the skill set yourself. How do you do a good enough job? Do you just set up some real basic simple tests just so you're in the game? Do you save up capital until you can afford to hire an expert? How do you handle that?
So first of all, I ask myself, can I even run an A/B test? Meaning, like, do I have enough volume for statistics to give me accurate answers? So my ballpark is, if your store has less than 1,000 transactions a month, doesn't matter what the price points are, whether it's like $5 a pop or $5,000 a purchase. But like if it's less than 1,000 purchases a month, it's too early for you to even think about A/B testing. Work on other stuff.
So you kind of think of A/B testing really as an enterprise level store. I mean, if you figure the average price point for an e-commerce offer to be somewhere around $20, you're looking at people who are $20,000 a month or more to begin in revenue to even begin considering this. You're a $250,000 business.
Well, because math, you can't change the way math or statistics work. So you need adequate sample sizes before stats will tell you anything useful or accurate.
I mean, that's kind of a good baseline. It's like, hey, listen, once you get to a $250,000 in revenue per year, on average, let's say, that's a good time to consider this. I mean, obviously, if you have really high price points, you won't have 1,000 transactions a month.
And yeah, I don't think it's about the revenue numbers. It's about exactly the transaction volume, because we need to track the number of conversions per variation.
Totally.
So, I mean, of course, for revenue per visitor, you need even bigger sample sizes, because it's variable data.
What do you think about this? As just throwing this out there, an event that is further up the purchase cycle, such as like an add to cart event? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's better than nothing. The problem is that these type of things, there's no causal, or like you cannot say that if we get more people to step at checkout step number 1 or 2, that this equals more purchases.
Totally.
So you might be spending a lot of time building experiments and thinking about it, but you can't measure whether anything actually got better.
For sure. So if
Now,
you're not at 1,000 transactions a month, then it's good to know that that's kind of your mark, that when you can embark on this journey of testing.
yes. However, it is also important to note that you can still do optimization. You just can't do testing. And conversion optimization, as I said, is 80% about research and figuring out the problems. Now, let's say that you do this analysis, and I mean, I can drop you a link that goes into in-depth, like how to do it. But let's say you find 50 problems that you know that are there. So you can't test and see if your solution worked or how well. But what you can do or should do now is that you just come up with your best idea for a solution and just implement all 50 solutions at once. So you change everything at once, make changes on your product pages, checkout, cart, homepage, you name it. Because the more changes you make, the higher the likelihood that all combined, they will have an impact that you can detect with your naked eye, so to speak. Because, in Google Analytics, if you look at your conversion rate, it's always up and down, like 10%
Totally.
up and down week by week.
Totally.
So if you just change something and it gets 7% better, you won't see it in the data, actually.
Right.
So you need to get a 20% improvement or higher. So if you got like 100 purchases a week and now you get 120 purchases a week or more consistently,
then you did something right.
It's probably because of the changes you made, and it's not the normal fluctuation.
Yeah, right on. Super cool. Well, so let's say you are someone who's interested in this subject matter. This is now where we go into the shameless pitch for your event, because one of the things that I'm a huge fan of is events. I think that like a lot of my major leaps forward in my career, a lot of the major and influential relationships that I have come from getting out of my daily routine and putting all my attention on my business through the form of a live event. So I'm a huge fan of these things. I send my actual employees, I send them out to events. I go to events, I speak at events. I'm speaking at your event. So why should someone come to your event? Who should come? Because look, the people listening to this are going to be e-commerce business owners, because that's my community. Mm-hmm. Give us a little bit on like why they should come to this thing.
Right. So the event is 3 days, and you should come if you're interested in one of these 3 topics or all of them, which is growth, growing your business, growth marketing, optimization, conversion optimization and testing, and 3, digital analytics. So the content of the event is about those 3 things, how to do it better. And we have like growth leaders from impressive companies.
People like Ezra Firestone.
Ezra Firestone, the Ezra is there. Then we have a head of growth of Instagram, Shopify.
Okay, so those people have me outmatched.
We have like optimization people from like Kayak and Airbnb and Google and you name it.
Yeah, so, I hear rave reviews about your event, man. So I'm super excited about it.
Yeah. And exactly what you said about meeting people. Our event is designed to make you meet people, because the whole event, we're booked. We booked a full resort, a fancy resort for our event. It's on the outskirts of Austin, Texas. And your event ticket includes 2 hotel nights, all meals. So you basically just show up, and everybody, you and your peers, they all stay in the same place for 3 days. And, there's long parties, people are staying up until like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. and having conversations, connecting, learning from your peers, because the problems that you're having, other people have had those problems. They've maybe figured out some good solutions that might work for you as well. So you learn, you connect, you have fun.
100%. And I'm going to include a link under this video so you can check out all the details on Pep's event. And I will be there with my team. So if you want to hang out with me, come on out. It's going to be a great event. Pep, thank you so much for taking the time. I also asked you for some blog posts that you felt were relevant to e-commerce business owners so that folks in my community could get a sense of your content and what you focus on. And so you have sent those over to me. Thank you for that. I'll put those under this video as well so you guys can get a sense of Pep's content. The event's going to be amazing. I hope to see you there. And Pep, thank you for the time.
Thank you, Ezra.